So the focus of my talk today will be to answer the question, how can we enable more circular behaviors? How can we engage consumers? How can we help people change in the way they act to join more circular practices out there? So when I hear Valerie saying many times, make it easy, I think in the end, that's the big message she wanted to bring with us. And that resonates very well also with the work I do. And when I say that, and you hear me saying this, you might think, Mariana, I try. I offer my service, my circular product, and people still don't buy it or don't take it as I would like them to, or my service, or that opportunity to share their things. And I understand that, but what I have to tell you is there is more and more evidence that engaging with the circular economy, with circular solutions, is nothing impossible. Quite the contrary. What we see in our research and our interventions is that actually people want to do the right thing more and more. They are looking for these opportunities, and it is our job to make it easier. It's our job to help them out, to help overcoming those barriers for people to maybe repair their product or choose a product that lives longer, or share, or recycle, and so on. And then I brought two concrete examples just to start with and show what I mean. One is from the food sector, indeed, specifically where people consume food in places where they consume food, for example, events like that, restaurants, buffets. There is evidence, for example, if you give them smaller plates, big chances are that less food will be wasted. And there is a very iconic Brazilian case in the sense that the guys actually cut the plate by 20% on the side. So you really had a normal big plate cut on the side, and then they managed to reduce food waste by 50%. So they had a nice human touch to the intervention, and at the same time, they implemented a default, a more sustainable default, a more sustainable option in their infrastructure to reduce food waste. A second example is that indeed from recycling, and the idea there is that if we make the bins attractive, eye-catching, easier to recycle, for example, with lids that tell people what they should do when sorting, what do you expect from them when sorting, that this increases the chances that resorting really happens and recycling then gets a better, higher rate. And there is evidence, for example, that the numbers of recycling beverage containers and bottles could increase by 34% in some countries like Indonesia. When I look back, I tell you all these things, and I look back into the history that brings me here, perhaps around 2014, 15, there was a time when maybe scientists were already testing how to help people in different contexts, in different labs, or in different environments to, for example, take up more circular solutions, more sustainable solutions. But the reality for people really working with circularity or with sustainability in the forefront was a bit different. So I think perhaps naive is a very strong word, but we didn't really have a method to engage people on the ground with our projects, besides inspiring people, besides telling stories that could at least get them interested, but not know in practice how to change their behaviors. And I think that's what brought my organization, and I had the chance to be part of that process, to engage in creating a method or a training, very practical, to empower then people like us working in the forefront, developing those solutions or engaging with consumers to be able to then trigger those behavior changes in people's routines in their everyday lives. And I think that's where my path then crossed at some point with Sylvia's, and this brought me here to share some ideas. And I think from this journey, if there is one key thing we learned, is that we tend to think we know what people need. We tend to assume what people need in order, for example, to recycle, in order to buy my more circular product, my product with recycled content. And the reason being is that often we are just excited about our solutions, and we forget just to ask what really takes people to engage with that solution, with that service, with that product. And the problem of assuming is that we often assume wrong. For example, we assume that people take a very rational view and approach to everything they do, that they can balance all the information they get out there. So this idea that if we, for example, provide information, maybe information in the packaging of the product, that people can rightly recycle, that people can rightly repair, that they can rightly decide for which product to go for. And that's just not true, or not true most of the time. So evidence has been showing us that we should try to move beyond or complement, for example, informational tools with other approaches that are more aligned with the way our brains work. And then maybe just to show that in practice, how we are often not acting as rational as we would like to think, maybe we do a little exercise before I move on. So I'm going to say a few behaviors, and then you can listen to this and see if you connect to any of those, or maybe if people around you do any of those behaviors. So starting with paying the membership of the gym, but not going to the gym or not going as often as you'd like, or eating sugary snacks more often than you'd like to because you know they're not healthy, but you can't resist. And I start seeing some smiles back. So I think that's probably a confirmation. Thirdly, you send text messages while you're driving, or you try to get your phone or call somebody while you're driving. And then finally, hitting the snooze in the morning, so your alarm rings and you're still tired and you just hit snooze and you sleep maybe 15 minutes more, although you were the very person that decided what time to set the alarm on the night before. And for me, that's definitely the winner, the snooze one. So did you connect to any of those things? And if you did, I think it's just a sign that you are a human being. Congratulations. No judgment. Sometimes when I say about rationality or irrationality, it doesn't always land the way it should. What I mean by being human beings, and all these are, by the way, examples of irrational behaviors. This means behaviors that we know we probably shouldn't be performing them, but we still do. And we don't do them just because we want. Sometimes it's just hard to go against the wave. It's just hard to acting upon that intention of just behaving differently. And I think that's the kind of thinking we should bring more and more to thinking how can we actually then engage people with more circular behaviors. And especially when we think about the behaviors we're talking about now here, like grocery shopping or sorting the waste at home or deciding what to eat, those are very much behaviors driven by habits, by automatic, not rational behaviors, very much driven by emotions, by past experience. So those are the things we should interfere on those habits, on those automatic types of behaviors, and not trying to think everybody's ready to balance all the information we can give them to then ultimately change every behavior they deal with. We do so many things on a day, it's just hard to go one by one thinking through how to best behave, right? So you might be thinking, okay, Mariana, so how do we do that? How can I interfere in people's habits? What's the moral of this story, you know? So if I could leave one main message from here for you to practically take that to your next project, maybe tomorrow, and start thinking on how perhaps approach your campaign or your project or your product differently. It's just starting by thinking, how can you better understand your audience? How can you better understand the customers that you engage with, the people that whose behavior you're trying to change? And when I say understanding, is really trying to uncover what are the obstacles, what are the barriers that people face, or the opportunities maybe they bring. They maybe already bring also positive things that help you, maybe values that already help on your journey. And in order to really find out what are those barriers or those opportunities, you can ask yourself 3 key questions. And now I have 1 minute to finalize, and hopefully I can put those 3 questions out there. First is whether people want to do the thing you want them to do. Is there, in other words, motivation in people to take up the behavior you want them to do? Do people want to recycle? Do people want to repair their thing? Do people want to buy something with recycled content? Name it. You have to ask yourself, is there first motivation? Secondly, is there ability? In other words, do people know how to do the thing you want them to do? Do people know how to separate maybe their waste or the paper from the plastic and put in the different places? Is there ability maybe in the mind or in the body, like physical skills to really be able to do the thing you want them to do? And then thirdly, whether there is a reason to do something now. Maybe the person is motivated and know how to do it, but I'm just going to do it tomorrow. Or maybe I just order a bin to put in front of my house next month or next year. So this urge of perhaps through an incentive, perhaps through social pressure, there are many instruments out there we can tap on that can help you. And I'm highlighting these 3 questions because those are 3 pillars we know that if they are there are big chances that the behavior happens, the circular behavior can happen. So motivation, ability, and opportunity. Test it. Let me know if it works. I'm curious. Thanks.